I remember seeing all these guys coming in riot gear. I remember them coming in, and as quick as they'd come in, they were gone. And it was like, they don't really see that. I mean, you know, and the situation, obviously, then you suddenly realise how dire the situation actually was, because I'd never seen riot police at football before, certainly not before the game, and certainly never, ever come in through your dressing room. It was like, whoa. But I also remember, I think, still at the same time, one or two of the lads were still playing cards. Almost sort of, no, this isn't really happening, let's just sort of play cards, and when we all wake up, this won't really have happened.
For some people, of course, the situation was all too real. The ragazzi still hadn't found their cousin, just as others had failed to find an uncle, aunt, brother, sister, father or friend. They could be anywhere, in or around the stadium. The Liverpool manager, Joe Fagan, wearing number 13, had told his players to stay inside, but he went out and talked to the fans. Bodyguard Tony Chin and the Belgian FA official Guido de Vint accompanied him.
He started crying, sobbing. He was saying, please, please, you know, let's have a game, let's enjoy the day. But he couldn't be heard, no one could hear him. The noise was just the volume.
You only saw all the faces, only the eyes, thousands of eyes on you. And he was so... He said, I can't do anything. There was no way of communication.
The powers that be couldn't control the situation. It was just expanding and snowballing.
At the other end of the stadium, the Juventus president, Gianpiero Boniperti, had to decide what to tell his players.
I didn't
want the players to know what had happened in the stands or in Block Z. So I went straight to the coach. I told the coach and the doctor the facts, and I said, don't let anyone in here. Let's lock the door. Let's tell the players it's because they need to concentrate on the game and nothing else.
Boniperti's plan was less than successful. He couldn't prevent the Juventus dressing room being invaded by desperate fans from Block Z, looking for a safe haven. Distressed themselves, the players decided to go out and try to calm the Italian crowd.
When you're in the middle of a mob, even if they're your fans, you don't feel that safe. We were trying to get them to behave. Look, there I am in the blue. You could hardly go out and tell the ultras 30 people have died. That would only have made them angrier. So you try to persuade them, to convince them that it's not so bad, that fewer people are involved, that they're injured, not dead.
It was amazing because it was the first time I'd seen them close up. There was just a wire fence between us. But it was awful too. Lots of us told them people have died and they shouldn't play, not under any circumstances.
We, Juventus directors and players, had come out to see what was going on. The fans who'd invaded the pitch came towards us. Some were beaten up, bleeding and crying, saying, Francesco, that's my name, Francesco, there are people dead, there's been a tragedy. And then another would say, Francesco, can I have your autograph? The contrast between the two was surreal and meant we really couldn't work out what had happened. The contrast was terrible. When I went back into the dressing room, some of the players were sitting head in hands crying. Some were being sick. Some had already taken a shower and were ready to leave. Psychologically, they just went up to playing.
Information was crucial that evening. Even 20 years later, it's difficult to find out exactly who knew what. Police communication records show that half an hour after the tragedy, 16 dead had been counted. An hour later, the death toll had risen to 35. Eventually, that number would increase to 38 on the night itself, and 39 in total. The figures were reported on TV, but the crowd wasn't informed, and back then there were no mobile phones. Beside the dead, 580 people were injured at Heysel, 42 of them seriously. They were taken to at least 9 local hospitals by ambulance, taxi and private car. In their wake were anxious friends and family, desperate for news.
They made me sit down, and a doctor examined me. My lips and my tongue were black, and I couldn't speak. He explained my wife's condition. She was in a coma. The first thing was to bring her out of the coma, and then they'd be able to establish how long her brain had been deprived of oxygen, and whether there was any brain damage. I was alone in this sea of desperate people. People were coming and going, some wounded, others unable to get through to relatives at home in Italy, and people who didn't know how bad their friends' injuries were. I remember an English guy who came in calling the Italians animals. Fortunately for him, one of the hospital doctors took him away quickly.
In the meantime, at the stadium, the ragazzi still hadn't found their cousin Domenico. As a last resort, they headed for the tents put up just outside the VIP hall.
We tried to get near, but the police chased us off because they thought we were looters, trying to steal from the dead. So we told Danilo to go up to the policeman and distract him, and Armando and I went round the back of the tent. We tried to lift the flap up to look at the people inside.
Nel vedere la prima abbiamo guardato subito se c'era dentro Domenico, no? Ma non c'era. Allora ci è venuto su un po' il coso, ho detto magari è vivo ancora. Invece hanno montato un'altra tenda. Nel montare un'altra tenda, lo zio Danilo era già entrato di qua, no? Era già entrato e ha visto che c'era lì dentro. Allora dopo noi ci siamo abbracciati tutti e tre, abbiamo pianto, no? Perché era lì per terra morto.
I recognized him by his shoes. There were a couple of bodies on top of him, but it was him.
Siamo abbracciati e piangevamo tutti.
We all hugged each other and cried. Remember that 20 years ago, I was 21, my brother was 23, and Guido was 26. We were very young and 1,000 kilometers from home.
A 1000 chilometri da casa.
My blood froze.
With the police, I start the horrendous job of going through the dead people's pockets to find their passports. We absolutely have to identify each and every body. I could hear a pin drop. It's as if I'm hearing the hearts beating in all these bodies together. I start making up stories. When I read a name out loud, I imagine the victim's life. I find a restaurant bill in the pocket of one man. It's from today. You can tell he enjoyed eating. He has a big stomach. Or rather, he had a big stomach. I smile. They're not dead. It's just a joke.
After about 5 minutes, we decided, come on guys, need to let someone know that Domenico is dead and we're all okay. We've got to call home. They'll have seen what's happened on TV and will be thinking the worst.
We said, let's go ring on doorbells. There'll be someone who understands us. But no one answered the door to us.
We couldn't call home, so we headed back to the car. But once there, we realized that we didn't have the keys. Who had the car keys? Domenico did, of course, in his pocket. So I waited there by the car, and Danilo and Armando went back.
I couldn't bring myself to go back in, so my brother went, but the police stopped him and told him in their language that he couldn't go in. My brother tried to explain. Keys, car keys. My brother went in, got the keys. I don't know if he kissed Domenico goodbye. He came out with the keys, and then we headed back to the car. They were loading the dead to take them to the morgue.
And so, the ragazzis left for Italy. And still, at the stadium, no decision had been taken, and all logic seemed to have disappeared. It was chaos. Nearly 2 hours after the deaths, the meeting in the VIP hall was still going on.
Then suddenly that Italian minister said in a very loud voice, in French, "But who's running the show? Who's in charge?" Total silence. Then the mayor, who was standing next to me, turned around and pointed to me, saying, "The general." Immediately I told them the game must go ahead. And I added, "You'll have to give me the time to bring in extra troops." They agreed. And so the game went ahead.
It was seen as safer to play than to evacuate. At last a decision had been made, or so it appeared. The Juventus players had been waiting in the dressing room for what seemed like ages, when manager Morini was asked to go to the meeting and find out what was happening.
I arrived and heard our president Boniperti starting to speak. "Gentlemen, given what's happened, that people have died, we Juventus are not willing to play. We can't play after what has happened. So I'm taking my team and we're leaving."
In a situation like that, instinct takes over. You think, we just can't play, we should postpone. It's not an easy decision to make.
The Italians in the meeting never really agreed to go ahead with the game, but the others insisted. The final had to be played, for security reasons.
So
President Boniperti said, "Okay, if that's what you want to do, we'll play. But is it a real game? Will it count?" And the Liverpool people said, "If we play, we want it to be for real." And the heads of UEFA said, "Yes, whatever the result is, it counts." I got the impression that the two club presidents, how can I say this, were more concerned with the match result, with who was going to win, than with the tragedy.